Greetings, Jess Romero here. This is a video for my defense for my research paper on the Russian Federation and their relationship with the Republic of Iraq, their historic relationship as well as current. Um, as for credentials, I am PhD student, Liberty University for history. I am a disabled veteran. I served with the U.S. Army. Lastly, as command chaplain assistant for special operations for Iraq and Syria, for Sujit FYR, CGI out of Syria, Special Operations Joint Task Force OYR, Operation Here Resolve. Um, so I did that before I got out, discharged, and began my educational pursuit of history. Um, so the key focuses for this research paper that I focused on was the nature of the Russian Federation as it transitioned from the collapse of the Soviet Union and what that looked like, especially with the chaotic nature of the early '90s to the mid '90s, and what that looked like with regard to their relationship with Iraq, with the government of Saddam Hussein and Saddam himself, especially in light of the fact that Operation Desert Storm took place shortly before the collapse of the Soviet Union, approximately same time period, if you will, same year time frame of a bunch of events happening. And so, what did that look like? I deal with that in this research paper. What that looked like for Russia, as well as their relationship with Iraq, because the Soviet Union itself had a relationship with Iraq for many decades. In fact, the Soviet Union perceived Iraq to be a primary interest and ally for it, as it was the closest Arab nation to the Soviet Union, to Russia, if you will. Iran is not an Arab nation; it is a Persian nation. It's historically the kingdoms of Elam and Parthia and Persis, from where we get Persia. So Iraq was really the first Arabic nation, and so I deal with the ramification of the Soviet Union's collapse and what that looked like for the Russian Federation. I looked at the history of what it was like for Russia internally in its struggle between Atlanticism and that of Eurasianists within the newly formed Russian Federation, between Gorbachev handing over to President Yeltsin, wanting to normalize, and not just normalize, but make better relations with America and the West, and their hope to be included into NATO as well as the European Union and any American Western uh, alliances and agreements, friendships, clubs, if you will, to which, well, they were excluded very pointedly, which is what the Eurasianists were able to capitalize on in the Russian Federation in order to focus the Russian government back towards um, fulfilling it and restoring its relations with nations such as Iraq. And so I look at that. I look at the struggles with the Yeltsin administration, as well as briefly with the attempt to take him out, to remove him from power, and of his basically clamping down on the opposition, which was mainly led by an admiral, as well as the vice president of his own vice president, um, which led to a new constitution and changing of the Russian Federation constitution government a little bit in 1998. This all led to being somewhat of a distraction for Russia internal um, issues, problems that greatly curtailed the Russian Federation's ability to prevent the events that led up to the Bush administration's decision to invade Iraq in 2003. As the paper works through, it talks about like the several attempts that the Russian Federation made in trying to lift the sanctions between 1991 and to 2003, and its overtures to Iraq in order to try to better their relationship between the two, for both business as well as for political and just overall strategic and interrelations between these two historic friends. And so we talk about that, and then also what it was like once Yeltsin left office and Putin became president, and how under President Putin everything began to shift profoundly. And now, as we've seen with the failure of American foreign policy and the withdrawal of American forces from Afghanistan and Iraq becoming more friendlier with Russia and as well as with Iran, which is a friend of Russia, that the geopolitical nature of the world order is beginning to change again. And so I began with my thesis basically how Russia and Iraq are historic friends, that they have a long term interrelations between these two countries that go back actually a lot farther than before the Soviet Union. And then um, their warming up of relations today, and what that means with regard to uh, as I culminate towards the end with Iraq wanting to join BRICS, Russia actually inviting them to join BRICS recently, and Iraq moving away from the U.S. dollar, divesting from it, and calling for the creation of a new international currency, new international global reserve currency, and a new order, if you will, to the world, one based upon, if you will, Russia and China's vision for a multipolar world order. So that's what this paper is about. Again, thank you very much, Jess Romero.